Welcome into a special episode of Odd Man Rush Playoff Edition. I'm Will Highland, joined by Kyle Diezel, coming to you after the second round of the Stanley Cup Playoffs as we head into the conference final round. We're very excited that we're halfway through the Stanley Cup Playoffs, and Kyle, before we get a weather report, you know, what's your what's your energy level after staying up late watching all these games the last month?
I've enjoyed it. I mean, my energy level's a little bit down, but I've really enjoyed it, except for the way these series have kind of ended. At least two of them, kind of predictable. Two of them I thought would end in different circumstances, but we'll go over that in a little bit here.
All right. I'm kind of the same way. I am, we'll get to it, but I am glad that the Toronto Florida series went seven. Um, and I do like um, that Dallas and Winnipeg did get stretched out to six. But I want to hear a weather report because I mean,
Yeah,
it's been pretty bad here.
yeah, it's been up in Vermont. I'm up in Vermont today, so it's actually been raining. I think 14 out of the last 15 to 16 days. So like constant nonstop rain, but I got out, went golfing for the first time on Saturday, played all right. So we'll take it. We'll take
All
it.
right. Well, this time of year, I tried to get my lawn mowed. I mean, it's impossible to get your lawn mowed. Um, And I know in both Maine and Vermont, we are known for our fall foliage
Mm-hmm.
and all of the work that you have to do in the fall to like rake and do all that. Um, but as we know, leaves also fall in the spring. Specifically the Toronto Maple Leafs. And because of that great segue, we can, and I'm trying to hold back my smile when I talk about this. We can talk about a little bit about that series because last time we talked, in fact, Diesel was game one of that series that just ended yesterday had already begun, and we
Sure.
had seen a pretty strong showing from the Maple Leafs in game one, and they had home ice advantage, and they played pretty well in game two. But we both said that they had to win a game in Florida because, in meaning a game three or game four in Florida,
Correct.
because if they didn't, then they were going to let the Panthers get hot. And that's exactly what happened. They ripped off three in a row. Florida didn't close out at home in game six. To Toronto's credit, they played well enough to win that game. And then pushed it to the ultimate pain of the game seven that they lost. But we said that they had to get control of that series and win three games before Toronto won two. Or excuse me, before Florida won two. And the Leafs could not do that. And that was their downfall. They got waxed in what was that, game four, 6-1, or game five, it was 6-1. And then they get waxed again in game seven last night, 6-1. Um, we're going to talk a lot about Toronto and what's next for them. But what credit do you give Florida for winning the series rather than Toronto choking it? Because there's going to be a lot of talk about
Yeah.
Toronto laying eggs and not being good and being losers, which they are. Um, but what what credit do you give the Panthers for the way they played?
I mean, for them, it's their forecheck to start. They were big on the forecheck, stayed with it, never gave up on that. I think that's what brought them back in the series. And we talked about going back to Florida is what ignites this team is playing down there, and that's what kind of brought them back together for game three and game four. I wouldn't say anything really stood out besides those two factors, except Brad Marchand's key addition at the trade deadline, I think was huge. And
And
I think,
Seth Jones.
yeah, the Seth Jones shoot as well. I think that's huge momentum for both teams. I mean, for all the Bruins fans out there, you're excited. You get a nice complimentary draft pick for the future here.
That's right.
But also, you get to see the Leafs lose again to the guy who basically is the papa of Maple Leafs right now. Um,
Bratty. He's their Bratty.
Yeah, so owns them in that kind of circumstance. But I do think, like we talked about before, the Panthers have been there and done that. They have proven, when even when they went to the Stanley Cups last year, they were up 3-0, and they still let the Oilers come back, but still held on to Game 7. This is a team that I don't think you need to worry about ever. Currently, right now, this team will go and fight to the end to Game 7, as we've seen so far.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Panthers, you mentioned the forecheck, you mentioned the trade deadline acquisitions, that's all true. Paul Maurice, I think, has had a really good run there with them for the last two seasons. Obviously, you have two cups appearances and a cup championship to your name.
Correct.
And they're on their way to another conference final, their third in a row. So like obviously they have the pedigree there with Barkov and Luosterainen and Sam Reinhart and Matthew Tkachuk and the list goes on. Sam Bennett, the list just goes on and on. But bringing in Verhage, but bringing in Sam Bennett, excuse me, Brad Marchand. I mean, practically the same player, just a difference in age. I mean, the way they play, uh, it, they are they are hard to play against. They're just a hard team to play against. Like, and
Correct.
it brings me no joy to like glaze the Florida Panthers the way that they've destroyed my team the last couple of years. But like I watched the series against a team that I, dislike more than them, and I say it's fun to see them work somebody else, right? Because it's not a Bruins problem. It's not
No.
a Maple Leafs problem. I mean, they did it to the Oilers last year. They did it to the Rangers. They're just they're a really hard team to play against. And it's not just the emotional stuff that they drag you into. It's the fact that they they play a 200-foot game. You mentioned the forecheck. Every guy can score, and they'll bring in these guys, whether it was Tarasenko last year or Marchand this year. They had OEL last year for a year. This year they have Seth Jones. They just plug these guys in that fit into their system, fit into the way that Maurice wants to coach, fit into the way that Kachuk and Bennett and Verhage and Barkov and Ekblad want to play. And they're really hard to beat. And
Yeah.
and Toronto figured that out. Like Toronto should know this because 2 years ago they also lost to them in the second round, and they're in the same division. I mean, the Florida Panthers aren't sneaking up on anybody anymore. You have to build your roster to beat them, and not many teams in the Eastern Conference have been able to do that the last 2 years, 3 years now. We're going on the third straight year where the Florida Panthers is just really hard to play against in a 7 game series. Like if you want to beat them 4 times, you have to basically play flawless hockey. You can't take a night off like the Leafs did in game 4 and 5. And in game 3, they had their foot on the neck and couldn't get it done. And Papa scored the game-winning goal there too. So
I mean, going off of what you just said there, I think it talks about composure of the team from their coach all the way to their veterancy of their captains to those with the A's, the assistant captains. It's the composure of these players never broke down. You were never scared the Panthers were going to go away. You never scared that they were going to, okay, if they lost the game, they weren't going to bounce back. However, look at Toronto. I can't say for umpteen years that I felt very confident that this team is going to make over that hurdle. I don't see the not to crap on Toronto right now, but
no, go for it. I mean,
I
we do this every year. This is the time.
I don't see the veterancy there. Like Austin Matthews, like where have you been? To be honest, we talk about one of the greatest American players of all time to have come through.
Witness protection.
He is nowhere to be found in these playoffs. I mean, yes, he has 1 or 2 games, but I watched the Maple Leafs the last 3 games. Yes, they had won the previous game. They actually looked composed. But when they lost game 5 and when they lost game 7, they looked like literally chickens with their heads cut off. I don't know where they were throwing the puck around to the middle of
Yeah.
their zone. Like, what happened? And those are your captains that need to step up. They're big role players. I didn't see him step up. I didn't see Nylander. I didn't see Austin Matthews. And then Austin Matthews' comments after the game, blaming the whole team and not taking accountability for himself, just shows me there's a lack of leadership in that
Yeah.
locker.
When you're the captain first of all, they take the C away from Tavares,
Mm-hmm.
who is another guy that was in witness protection. and they put it on Austin Matthews. And then Austin Matthews goes out there after a second consecutive year in which they lose a game seven that they could have won. Like on paper, the the Maple Leafs were the division winners, have like three of the best 20 players in the league, and should be better.
Well,
Should have been the better team and had a 2-0 series lead and home ice advantage. So he goes out there and he says something like, "There's too many passengers on this team." Dude, look in the mirror, bro. You like, I'm with you. I think I'm gonna look it up real quick because I don't know.
yeah,
Um, but if you have another point on Matthews,
yeah. My
go
point
for it. Go ahead.
about Team USA is, to be honest, what we saw from this earlier with what is it, the Four Nations there. I don't think he deserves a C. If he's going to be the future of Team USA, I don't think he deserves it. I think Matthew Tkachuk right now is the leading candidate to be the captain of Team USA. If it's Austin Matthews, I'm going to be very disappointed.
Yeah, Austin, I'm with you, and I'll entertain that in a second. I wanted to finish my first thought
Yeah.
though about the points. He had 4 points in 7 games, one goal. I mean, I'm sorry. Brad Marchand at age 37 had double the points in the series as one of the faces of the league. You know, my Xbox is no longer in this room, but he's on the cover of NHL 22, NHL 19, 20, NHL whatever. I mean, he's a face of the league.
And what is he on the third line right now? Second line? He's not even on the first line.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's the other strange thing. Like and look, if he's injured, then he needs to go out there and own it and just be like, "Look, I was hurt." You know, like the fact that he doesn't talk about his injuries, um, he's doesn't he's snippy with the media, and you bring up the USA thing, and we'll talk about the goalie aspect of this later when we get to Hellebuck and Ottinger and whatever. But from a forward perspective, I think I would give the C to Kachuk in for the Olympics, and possibly you could talk me into giving it to Eichel. I mean, those are the two names I would
Yeah.
contemplate giving it to for by the way, those two guys have won a Stanley Cup last year and the year before. So, yeah, okay, there's that whole thing. And similarly, like I look at Austin Matthews and it's a whole body of work. Like I'm trying not to be a prisoner of the moment because it's really easy to come in here on a Monday afternoon after the Leafs lose again over the weekend and, piss on the Leafs because they lose another game seven. But it's the whole body of work. I mean, I'm looking at the Ottawa series. He had 2 goals in 6 games. Now he had a lot of assists. He actually had a decent series early on there, but he was a -4 in one of those in that game in which Ottawa pushed pushed the series back to their home arena, and then he was a -2 last night, and a -2 in the 6-1 defeat against Florida in Game 5. So it's the whole body of work with Austin Matthews. Like, sure, he had a couple games last year against the Bruins where he played really well, but when push came to shove in the playoffs, you look around and he's like a -2, -4 for you. And we haven't even talked about his teammates. We haven't even talked about Mitch Marner.
No.
Um, we haven't even talked about Tavares, who again is in witness protection. And I don't know what the Leafs need to do, but I pulled this stat as well. In their last 16 home games at Scotiabank Arena, the I wrote it down. I don't want to get it wrong. This last 16 games, they are 3-13 in the postseason at home. 3-13. They've been outscored 55-29, and in half of those games, they've scored one goal or less. It's not Sheldon Keefe's fault, right? It's not. It's
We
not
It's not the
Mike
coaching.
Babcock's fault. I
Nope.
mean, they're just losers, is what they are.
Correct. And that stems from, we talked about, you changed the coaching staff umpteen times, you changed the GMs. It's none of that's the issue right now. At
Right?
this,
They had Kyle Dubas. They bring in Brad Treliving. Treliving. I mean, we can talk about some of their trade deadline moves.
yeah.
The Lofton kid and Brandon Carlo. Okay. sounds good. They gave up a lot of draft capital for these guys. Um, I mean, and in the process, they beat Ottawa. Congratulations on that. But like another that that wasn't the goal for them. So
Yeah. When it comes to playing a team that's been there, done that, they seem to tuck their tails away and let it be. I don't know what it is. Definitely, I'm expecting a lot of changes to happen this offseason for them. And I think that,
so what do you think is the first? I'm gonna look up Marner's playoff log while we're talking. But what do you think is the first domino to fall? Like, do you think it's Brendan Shanahan being relieved as president? Or do you think it's Kyle Dubas being relieved as GM? Do you think it's probably not Craig Berube being relieved as the coach? You're
oh,
probably letting Mitch Marner walk.
correct. I think you're letting Mitch Marner walk. Potentially, Brand Shanahan, you let him go. But like we talked about, it's not the higher ups issues. If it's the same players, you keep in the same system and get the same results.
Well, it is. I mean, I agree with you, but I am going to push back a little bit. It
Yeah.
is the executive's job, maybe not the coach,
Yeah.
because the coach is making a lineup with the best players, and these guys are talent-wise the best players. But like the the GM has to know on year 7 or 8 of the Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, William Nylander, John Tavares experience that this core four, as they call it, I could have told you this 2 or 3 years ago that it was never going to happen. We could have said this years ago, but they held on to the talent, and I don't blame them. But at some point, it is kind of on them that they held on for this long and expected a different result. That is the definition of insanity.
Correct.
So, like, I'm with you. Marner's going to walk for sure. The way he was talking last night, I don't know if you heard any sound. He
No.
was talking in the past tense about his time as a Maple Leaf.
Mm.
He
He,
said, "It's been fun. It's meant a lot to me."
yeah. He's
Not, "I'm having fun. It means a lot." It's, "I had fun. It's meant a lot." Meaning and I guess this leads to my last point, and I'm interested to hear your thought on this because you also are a fan of another team in the Eastern Conference in our country. But it leads to this thing where I heard some coverage out of Toronto this morning, and they said something to the tune of Mitch Marner or Brendan Shanahan or anyone else who's going to leave and probably go somewhere who might leave and go somewhere else. They said that those people like that are going to be welcomed um in like basically low information American markets like San Jose or Anaheim or whatever. And I think that attitude among the Toronto ex group ecosystem of hockey is one of the reasons why nobody is shedding a tear that they blew it again. Because their media, their fan base, their front office, their player, not necessarily their players, have this attitude that like anywhere else is beneath them. And if Mitch Marner goes and walks, whether he's let to walk or not, if he goes to a place like Anaheim or Chicago or Nashville, then that's their problem, and they're gonna laugh at them because they don't know how that he's a choker. And I'm like, actually, I think we all know by now. In fact, a low information American fan base has kicked your ass in the postseason 2 out of the last 3 years, and that's the Florida Panthers. And they've kicked our ass, right? So I used to make those jokes about Florida being, oh, why would anyone want to go play there? It's a stupid, they don't even like hockey. That fan base might be might be small, but I think they're learning quickly that the Toronto Maple Leafs are losers, and I don't think you can hide behind your um, your Toronto area code and your big media market anymore. I think even our country is well aware that the Leafs are full of choking. So, what do you think of that assessment? Like,
no,
I think that mentality is one of the reasons why they're in this mess.
I agree. I mean, I do think if they are open to open arms here back in the states, whatever teams they might go to, I think Mitch Marner is going to have a better career once he leaves Toronto. I think it's also the stress and pressure they put upon Toronto to keep on to go win. And I think we keep seeing that pressure put on those players. It's not reasonable for those players. And I think they're putting all that pressure on them for no reason that they should put this pressure on, if that makes sense. The media itself is what I'm referring to, that they just need to chillax and relax a little bit, like let the players play. Um,
But at the
but
same time,
correct,
I can't blame them in some regard because they're treated like the New York Yankees or the Los Angeles
correct,
Dodgers.
correct. The other issue is I think we saw last night, in my opinion, seeing jerseys thrown on the ice, seeing bottles thrown on the ice, very just disrespectful fan base. Just gonna put it that way right now.
I'm with you.
Shouldn't be doing that. Like that is not a way you show respect for your franchise, support for your team or anything. If you're gonna kind of just leave, go right ahead. But to trash the arena, totally not okay.
Yeah, there's people there who make minimum wage who are working in the stadiums who are just trying to do their best jobs so that people can go have a good time and they don't deserve to be treated poorly by by fans and but it is that mentality, Diesel,
Yeah,
that leads us to like part they're not just a rival of the Boston Bruins. They're a original six team. They're a huge market. Like I have respect for the way that they care. I wish more I wish more media markets in the United States cared as much as they do. But they do bring it on themselves when when their media members make comments like that. And it's like, well, if Mitch Marner goes to a place like Chicago and teams up with Connor Bedard, um, I don't know. I saw Mitch Marner in the Four Nations against our country, and he looked pretty good when he was on Team Canada with McKinnon and
yep.
Crosby and guys who like knew how to win. So maybe Bedard's a little too young, but if he goes somewhere like, I mean, we used to think that about Florida and Tampa,
He's gonna
first of all.
competitor. Right? He's gonna go to a competitor.
I honestly, if I had to throw a name out there, if we're gonna have like 2 months of Mitch Marner watch.
To,
Actually, by the time the playoffs are over, we'll only have 2 weeks of it. But I would say, if I had to throw a name out there, I would say Colorado or Tampa.
yeah,
I
I
don't think he's gonna go. Like they made to make their point, they
yeah.
said, "Oh, he'll go to Anaheim, somewhere where he doesn't have pressure."
No, I hope
No, I don't think. I think he'll go somewhere like Colorado or Tampa.
he's gonna go somewhere that has support for him, and those are two great franchises that have the support that he's gonna need.
Right. Yeah, I think so. I don't see Mitch Marner going to, the Columbus Blue Jackets with all due respect. Like I don't or the Utah Hockey Club. Like what I would do though, if I was Utah, is I would give him a blank check. I mean, like
Yeah,
I would also, if I'm Utah, not and I would. This is, we've talked about Shanahan and we've talked about Marner. I would, if someone gives you a Godfather offer for Austin Matthews, what do you do if you're the Leafs? Like if someone says, "Here's Dylan," if Utah comes up to you and says, "Here's Dylan Gunther, um, and 3 first round picks."
I mean, how do you say no to that?
Right. Like who's the best player on the Utah Hockey Club? Probably Dylan Gunther, right? The Mammoths. Actually, they have a name now. They're the Mammoths. Um, who's the best player on them? Probably Dylan Gunther. Unless I'm missing somebody, they have defenseman that's pretty
Yeah,
good. I forget his name.
I'd be. No.
They have the guy from Tampa that went there, but like if I mean if you're one of those teams or if you're the Dallas Stars and you're trying to retool on the fly, like because Jamie Benn's not going to come back, do you say here's a couple first round picks, or here's Tyler Seguin and a third round pick? I don't know. Obviously, it would have to be more than that. I'm just spitballing, but like if you're a Western team, I'd put a Godfather out there for uh for Austin Matthews and see what happens. Like, what are
Yeah,
they gonna say? No? Okay, you tried.
yeah. I
I
mean,
know you don't like Matthews and you think he's a choker and a loser, but like if you're one of those self-proclaimed low fan bases that the Canadians like to make fun of us for, and you're trying to get people in your barn.
give it a shot. It can't hurt.
No, I mean, because What I mean, Austin Matthews has scored 70 goals, has been to the playoffs. I mean, he would inject some juice
Right.
into one of those fan bases, but I don't know, man. Any final thoughts on the Leafs? I don't know what they do. I think they should really make sure that they make Nyes a priority.
Yeah.
And
I,
other than that, I don't know what they do.
yeah. It'll be a fun season to watch what the Leafs do. It kind of be, I think they'll be the deciding team of how the offseason goes.
Right. They'll be the movers and the shakers for sure.
Yeah.
I think Marner's going to go to free agency. I don't think there's any chance in hell they
Yeah.
come to an agreement before July 1. If I'm wrong, I'll say it on this program, but I don't think so.
No, they won't.
No, not the way he was talking last night. And they bungled. I'll just say one more thing on the Leafs. They bungled this so bad. I mean, I'll send you the magazine cover. There's a magazine cover that's been circulating online that was like from 2018, and it's like the pictures of the Maple Leafs, and it's like it's not a matter of when they'll win a cup, but how many they'll win. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And it was like a picture of Marner, Nylander, Matthews when they were like 20.
Jeez.
Yeah. Anyway, so speaking of paper tigers, teams that didn't meet expectations, I just want everyone to understand that I was right about the Washington Capitals.
You were
So
right.
I did say they were a paper tiger all year long. Everyone's gassing them up, and I'm like, I don't know. They haven't had anything to play for other than the Ovechkin record, and that's not going to mean anything in the playoffs. And lo and behold, give credit to Carolina. They played really well. I think we had questions about Freddie Anderson, and because he played really well against the Devils. But what do you think made the difference for Carolina over Washington? I
Uh,
think it's Anderson.
I don't think it's Anderson himself. He did play phenomenally. I think it still has to do with they were as physical as Washington was, and they took advantage of the speed they have with the team Carolina has. And I think that's what propelled them to thrive. I mean, some of their young studs are playing out of their mind, which is how they should be. I think this will be a really interesting matchup because they're going to go against a team who's as physical as them, but a team that's already been there, done that in these tough situations. Carolina hasn't hit that hump of getting over and past the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for them because there's no more consolation prizes when you're the Carolina Hurricanes and you've got to this position year in and year out, or at least the second round or third round. They've been kind of stuck there for, 5, 6 years almost. Really, I think in most of the last 6 seasons, they've made the second or third round. Um, so this is when the rubber hits the road for them. Um, I think and I'm not trying to crap on the Leafs again, but they did mention, oh yeah, if I could see Marner going to a place like Carolina, he'd fit in well there, just flying around the ice, not really playing a 200-foot game. And I'm thinking, you guys are throwing shade on the Carolina Hurricanes. They played really well. They upset the Presidents or the Eastern Conference top dog, and they're going to the
Mm-hmm.
conference final, and you guys are golfing in Muskoka next week. So like I've got, it's like, can we give some respect to Carolina here? Like I think the Jersey series, no offense, was a little bit of a pillow fight.
Yeah.
And then I think that the Hurricanes have sort of slept walked through a lot of the not sleepwalk makes it sound like they didn't work hard, but like it seems like they haven't faced a ton of resistance so far.
No.
But they have guys who have played in a lot of playoff games. Like and I can't remember if it was last year or the year before that Svechnikov was hurt, but they haven't really felt like a full team until this year. Like there was always a question about one part or another of their team the last 2 years. But I really think and I'm gonna hammer it home again, their goaltending is so far in the playoffs is why they're 8-2. I mean, Anderson's played great. He didn't give up more than 2 goals against the Capitals. He played pretty good against you guys, although the Devils were hurt, weren't the same team. But I think oh I disappeared on video. I'm like Austin Matthews. All right, I'm back. So I don't know. What do you give them a puncher's chance though against the Panthers because
I
it's not like they're incapable of winning the series.
No, and they've got home ice all the way through. So
Right.
to me, this is the series that they should win because of the advantage of being home. However, as we know, Florida just finds a way to upset these teams. And I
They
think,
won, yeah, because Tampa had home ice and Toronto had home ice.
as we saw with Toronto, they cannot let their foot off the gas. They have to literally stranglehold the Panthers all the way through. Because if you give them any hope, they'll take advantage. And I think that's what Carolina has to do. Hopefully, goaltending stays hot. Same with their players that are currently staying hot. So hopefully that continues. But as we know, the Panthers are sneaky. They're still going to be a very physical team. It's just to me, it's going to depend on who's going to. Is it going to be the veterancy that takes over, or is it going to be the young studs who are up and coming here to help the Canes move on to the next round? Is Freddie Anderson going to be showing up here?
Right. Yeah. Is it going to be who are they going to rely on in
Mm,
the postseason? Are they going to rely on the are they going to rely on the goaltending that has got them there?
correct.
Because or are they going to hopefully try and outscore Florida? Like I I would hope that the latter prevails. Or the former. Like I would hope that they if I'm Carolina that I go more on the on the side of just hoping that Freddie Anderson just rides this wave that he's been riding for 10 games. Because if you try and beat Florida 5-4, it's not going to go well for you. And and that's why I think this series does come down to Bob versus Freddie.
No,
Like
I'm under that.
because like the Florida forecheck and all that stuff we talked about last um series with the Leafs, it's going to be there. But all the things that Carolina does well, you know, hitting open ice, doing all these things that the Maple Leaf fans were critiquing them for, that's their bread and butter. Like they're going to sauce the puck around. Their power play is going to be deadly. That's what makes them good. What they can't do is they can't try and beat the Panthers with guys in the penalty box. Like, as somebody who's lost to the Panthers, as they have before, Bruins fans, we understand that you cannot take penalties against the Florida Panthers. Um, so if I'm the Carolina Hurricanes and I'm Rob Brindamore, I go into this series and I'm like, we have home ice, we have a hot goalie, we have skilled forwards, we have big defensemen. You got Slavin, who I think was the best defender in the Four Nations face-off. And we've got Brent Burns, old man Burns, I think he's healthy. And we've got Anderson Hawk. This is what we need. This is the recipe to beat Florida. Now, is it going to happen? I'm not sure. We'll give our picks in a little bit. Um, but that's where I'm at with the Hurricanes. Like they have a shot, but the excuse making they're running out of time.
Correct.
So like I don't know. Who do you think wins this series? Like I'm trying to look up the stats here, but
Mm, Going off of, I know that you talk about, it seems like the Carolines have had a smooth course to get here, so I'm kind of not sure how I really feel about them. I feel like they haven't really had a test, and this would be the true test. However, Florida has taken out probably the two other best teams here in the East, so I think the Panthers get this hard fought battle. I think Panthers win six.
yeah, I'm thinking I'm with you. I think my heart again, my video keeps disappearing. I mean, now if it disappears a fourth time, then maybe I'll be the core four of Toronto, just not showing up in the playoffs, not showing up on camera in HD on a Saturday night. But seriously though, no. Like if I'm picking this series, I have to go with experience. Um, and I used to think, oh well, it's unheard of. They've played so much hockey over the last few years for them to go to a third straight cup. Well. The Lightning did that.
Yep.
You know, the Pittsburgh Penguins went to back to back. Um, we saw the Blackhawks and the Kings play a lot of hockey early on. So it's not unheard of for a team to do that. So I think I think the Hurricanes have to win a game in Florida no matter what happens in Raleigh. But I think just based on experience, I have to pick I have to pick the the Hurricanes to lose and the Panthers to win in six. But I'm with you. I for the sake of a good show, I wish it was different, but this is where we're at. All right, my video is all over the place. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. You just keep
Yeah.
blurring, freezing.
All right. So I'm gonna do my best John Tavares impersonation, and I'm going to disappear. Okay. So while I'm disappeared, I have a question for you.
Yep.
Um, who who do you like? I don't feel the need to really talk too much about the Edmonton Vegas series. I know you like Vegas. Um, I forget who we picked. Did we pick Edmonton or I think I picked Edmonton.
I picked Vegas.
I think I picked Edmonton because I said I didn't want to go back on my word. But if I'm wrong, I'll own it next episode. Um, I I didn't watch a lot of these games. They're on late. But what's your take on Edmonton? On Edmonton this year? Like, do you think they're going to be able to do what the Leafs couldn't do and live up to the pressure, or are they going to this Dallas team? Are they going to be able to overcome how experienced and aggressive Dallas plays?
Yeah, I mean it's gonna be a great series. Between the two, I do think the Oilers they've just been playing really great hockey all around. Goaltending's been great for them, but you can say the same with Dallas. I mean, for me in this series, it's going to come down to one goaltending, and then two being the depth and the wear and tear. Dallas has played multiple game seven, game six series already. Toronto, the Oilers have played what 6 and 5, something like that. So like they're a little more rested.
Yeah, they played
Uh,
five against the King or six against the Kings and five against the Knights.
but it just depends how Dallas plays. If Dallas can still play lines 1 through 4, be physical, I think they have the advantage in that stance. But for the Oilers, it's just going to be scoring, goaltending. That's the two things that they need. If those two things aren't working for them, I don't see them winning the series. For Dallas, you have to limit the firepower of the Oilers, and if you're able to do that, and then score off of that. I mean, we've already seen them score. Have already had what 3 hat tricks already this postseason. So like Dallas has something going, but we can't be quiet. We can't be quiet on the Oilers here. They will sneakily or secretly get in here and disrupt things for Dallas. So I'm hoping Dallas can continue. I like Dallas here in 7.
You like Dallas in seven. That
Like
would be great TV. Can you remind me? You might have said it, but I was thinking the whole time we were talking about this aspect of it. Can you tell me who has home ice?
Dallas.
So, home ice. All right. My goodness gracious, what is wrong with my site?
You're really looking like Toronto here in
It's just freezing.
game 5.
Yeah. Let's see. Where is my this my other content for the fans? Where I'm trying to maybe my cable for my webcam is tight. Or if it was too tight, it would be like the Maple Leaf fans last night. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You start getting a little staticky, so
All right, we're just gonna go no camera. All right, just gonna go no camera the rest of. We're gonna go no show. We're gonna go full Toronto the rest of the
game
episode.
7. I like it.
All right, as I was saying, okay, Dallas got home ice. All right, great, happy for them. And the reason why is I would not want to go to that building for a game seven. You were talking about how it's gonna be a hard fought series. Both teams have really explosive power plays. I
Don't-
give the edge obviously to Dallas in goal. Uh,
Correct.
I give
Don't
the
forget,
edge
he has never lost a game seven. He's undefeated.
their coach.
Yep, Dallas head coach has never
Yeah.
lost seven.
And I don't think Otter has lost the game seven since 2022, if that's right.
I think so. Yes.
Yeah. So like the good news is if they get a game seven, it's going to be in Dallas
Correct.
because you do not want to go to Edmonton for game seven. That would be the Canucks figured that out last year. Um, so that's my take on like the big picture. The little picture is I'm looking at what does Mikko Rantanen do next, right? Because Mikko Rantanen always was in the shadow of McKinnon, I think, in Colorado.
Yep.
And we were talking about the Hurricanes, and they would love to have him in this Florida series, but it just didn't work out there. And who knows, the Leafs, they were trying to get him too. Um,
Yep.
but he was always in the shadow there. And now he's going up and he's going against McDavid and Draisaitl, against the Edmonton Oilers, who are the darlings of the Western Conference, the defending conference champs. And I think Mikko, if Dallas is going to win this series, Mikko needs to have another really good series like he had against Colorado and then um, against the
Winnipeg.
Winnipeg Jets. Thank you. He has to he has to replicate that again because they're going to need offense. Despite how good Ottinger is, they're going to need the offense if they're gonna beat the the Oilers. There's no way around that. They're not going to be able to win. I don't if I'm the Dallas Stars, I don't want to get in a 2-1 game against Edmonton.
No.
You know, you want Heinz, Rantanen, Granlund, Ben, Duchesne, Tyler Seguin. You want your top six to play, and you've got Robertson on your third line now. You need these guys to play the style of hockey that's going to allow you to win a game 4-1, 3-0, 5-2. You do not want to get into a 2-1 game against Edmonton because the next thing you know, Edmonton could rip off a goal, especially if you're on the road and you lose all momentum.
Correct. You also got to be careful of penalties. I think that's going to be another key factor. You cannot let that Oilers power play dictate the entire series. So they got to be careful of penalties they're taking.
Certainly. And like if I'm the Oilers and I want to win this series and not have to go to Dallas for game seven to do so, you got to pounce early on the road. You got to win. You have to win a game in Dallas. And then I would say you got to win your home games
So
because like Nugent Hopkins, McDavid, Hyman, Draisaitl, I mean, Kane, they all, they were all part of the team last year. Bouchard as well. And they saw the grind of flying from Edmonton to Dallas. They did that last year, and if they win the series, they might have to do what they did and fly to Florida all the time, right? So you want to get this series done and over with, and to do that, I think Edmonton has to score at home, and they have to win their home games early. They can't let Ottinger get in there, and and steal the series early.
no, you're absolutely correct. You have to go up. You have to win your first two games at home. I agree with you totally on that. Try to sneak one out in Edmonton, but it's going to be tough. I think going up there, if you allow them to tie the series, it gives them more momentum. But if it goes in 1-1 through the first four games there, or 2-2, I think you're totally fine still because you still have home field advantage, but you just can't let Edmonton go up 3-1 or it's over, or 2-1.
Yeah, I mean, I would never say it's over if Edmonton was up 3-1. Um, but like just because of how good Dallas is. Like
Right.
you and I have been really high on Dallas the last few years on this pod, and they just haven't been able to get it done. Um, and and I guess while we're on Dallas, like, do you want to address the goalie thing with Winnipeg, or let's make our picks first. You said
As,
Dallas in seven. I'm gonna say I think I'm gonna go Oilers in six, and the reason why is I feel like we're on a collision course for a rematch between Florida and Edmonton. I feel like we're on a collision course for that. The way the playoffs have gone, the way both teams are playing, I could see any of these four teams making it and having a different matchup, any of these two series coming out a different way. But I just feel like they're putting us on a they meaning fate is putting us on a collision course for a rematch. So I'm gonna go Oilers in six. Um, but in your hypothetical Stanley Cup right now, who wins, Dallas or Florida? Just rapid fire.
Gosh, just the way these teams have been playing, it's so hard. I want to say with my heart the Panthers, but I would like to see Dallas.
All right. I think if you get an Edmonton Florida rematch, I think Edmonton wins the cup.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
Because I think they'll have enough fire in them. And it's not unprecedented because Tampa couldn't three-peat. Now I know Florida's not trying to three-peat, but that third time that Tampa got back, they lost to Colorado. So who knows? But yeah, that take is in development. If we actually do get it, if we actually do get a Edmonton Florida final, we can see what that will look like and how they've been playing, and then maybe I'll change my mind. But for now, I'd say Edmonton wins that series. Okay, but elephant in the room for us Americans is Connor Hellebuck is not the guy to bring to Italy.
No.
So I'm gonna throw out the possibility that Ottinger needs to be the one. Hellebuck, you can bring him,
Yeah.
and then I say one of the three guys, one of the following three guys is going to be your third goalie. I think it's going to be Joey Decord, um, Thatcher Demko, or Swayman.
Wow.
One of those three is going to be the third goalie. But I think Ottinger needs to be he needs to start.
If he wins the Stanley Cup, do you think he automatically is the number one choice?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And if he wins a Conn Smythe, it's not even a conversation. Like, if Dallas wins the cup in your scenario that you want to have happen, hey, we stopped talking about the Leafs and I appeared again. So if Dallas wants to win the cup, and they obviously do, and if we want Dallas to win the cup as neutral fans, I think if I had to pick a team that I would like to see win it, it would be them. If that happens, and if Jake Ottinger wins the Conn Smythe, it's not a discussion. Like
Oh, absolutely.
if they're gonna win the cup, it's gonna be because he's balls out against the Oilers and whomever wins the East. That's going to be how it goes. And if that happens, they're going to start constructing these teams late summer, early fall. They're going to start getting together in boardrooms and say, who do we want to bring, who we didn't bring, or who we should have brought to the Four Nations or whatever. And there's going to be a lot of American consultants, guys, American coaches, American executives who are looking at a whiteboard and they're like, so we started Hellebuck against Canada and he let up a soft one. And Ottinger's a Stanley Cup champion and a Conn Smythe winner. Yeah, we're gonna go with that guy. So I don't think it will be a discussion. I think at this point, as we said last pod, I think it's I think it's Otter's net now.
Yeah. I think you're right. I mean, for him to choke in the Four Nations and then to choke again this playoff series, um, I mean, again, they're two very different teams at two different points in time, but Winnipeg was probably the hottest team this entire season, and then for them just to not basically show up. Hellebuck hasn't really shown us, at least in the last few years, that he's been the guy. We've talked about him and the Jets just having that curse of never making it over the hump, just like Toronto. I guess you can call them the Leafs of the Western Conference. But Jay Andrew's been playing phenomenal. I mean, he's also on a team that's probably more star-studded than the Jets, but he's also a much younger guy. I think Hellebuck's like 34, 36, and Jake is what, like mid 20s, I believe. So, like, there's also a huge difference in age, but how they're playing. I'm seeing in better competition, Jake is showing up versus Hellebuck.
Right. Oh, for sure. And I was I am of the opinion and I that so you can look at this three ways. You can look at the what have you done for me lately, which is okay, well if Ottinger has just had a better postseason. And I think Hellebuck's had a great regular season. He's a Vezina winner all the time, like great. But what have you done for me lately? Ottinger wins whether he wins the Stanley Cup or not, I think right now he's the guy. If he wins a cup and wins a Conn Smythe, that's not a conversation. You could also look at I think personally, I know I brought up Joey Daccord and Thatcher. I think you roll back the same three because Swayman, I know I'm a pro Swayman guy. He's been playing at the Worlds and he had a bad game against Switzerland, but the other two games he had two shutouts, you know, and had a 2.23 goals against. Now, I know the World Championships isn't the same competition as the Four Nations or the Olympics, but you look at it international play, Swayman for sure agreed to go play in that because he knows this is all going on. And if there's an injury or whatever, then he could be the number two guy. But I think you go into the Olympics next year and you have Andre 1, Hellbuck 2, Swayman 3, and you just flip flop. Because I think we would have beat Canada if Andre has played like he played this last week against Winnipeg.
Mhm.
I think we beat Canada in that one game.
No, I agree. That's how it would have been. I mean, he didn't play great when he had his one chance, but if you had Jake Andre now versus then, totally different story. I agree.
And Jake Ottinger's playoff record, I can't find it immediately. I should have pulled this up. But like he playoff index. Nope, can't find it. All right, never mind. I'm not gonna try and pull it up. But like, I'm just thinking back through his years. They made a deep run last year, a deep-ish run in 23, and then 22, he was like, I think practically a rookie or a second year player, and he had a great series against Calgary. He just kind of, they just, he lost the overtime game. That was the last like big game that I can remember that he lost that was meaningful that I watched, and didn't even play that bad. So like eyeball test goes Otter. I think we're in agreement there.
I agree.
Anything else you want to say before we wrap up the pod?
Mm, gosh, just I just hope to continue to get some great playoff hockey here. I think it's propelling to go far, especially with how compared to the NBA currently, how that
Oh
is
my goodness, yeah.
at least the playoffs right now. 19s, I do think the NHL has the better advantage. So I'd like to see hockey just keep improving, getting better overall.
Yeah, I agree. I think the TNT crew and the ESPN crew or mostly the TNT crew this year have done a pretty good job with with the games and the broadcasting and everything. So that's been fun. I mean, with the exception of Paul Bissonnette, I'm kind of tired of his shtick, but he got dealt some humble pie last night. But yeah, it's been a good playoff so far. I'm looking forward to continuing, and I think we got four really good teams. Um, so we'll be back, everyone, after next round. We'll have a Stanley Cup matchup by then. We'll also maybe have some coaching news and whatnot between now and then. But I hope you all have a great rest of your week. And until next time, it's Kyle Diesel. I'm Will Highland. It's been Odd Man Rush.